It's the second day of the 5th month of the year 2024. Good morning. Welcome to Joy News Desk. Coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemne. Coming up this morning, Attorney General advises EOCO against money laundering probe of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah. We have details of the AG's response for you. Also, solve Dumsor now. That's the call from the Trades Union Congress to government, unhappy about the erratic power supply, which they say is making life unbearable.
But the people of Ghana have to experience Dumsor again. After all what we went through in the past. Please, do something about Dumsor now.
We'll hear from the president, who says Dumsor is now a thing of the past.
For the past 7 years, we have worked tirelessly to keep the lights on, and I am confident that the unfortunate era of Dumsor will not return.
Methodist Church Ghana joins calls for an urgent review of the free SHS policy to ensure better food and infrastructure for beneficiaries across the country.
As the system itself needs some review so that we can fine-tune it.
And later, looted Asante royal artifacts on display for public viewing at Menchia Museum after 150 years in the United Kingdom. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Do stay for details. Thanks for choosing us. The Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice has counseled the Economic and Organized Crime Office EOCO against pursuing money laundering investigations into the activities of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah. Following a request for advice from EOCO on the matter, the Attorney General's office responded in a letter dated April 25, 2024 to EOCO that the OSP's office did not submit its collaborative investigation report to EOCO nor its inquiries regarding its findings. My colleague Asante joins me in the studio with the details of that letter. Asante, what does the letter say?
Well, Aisha, so we recall that Office of the Special Prosecutor closed this investigation into this matter and referred same to the Special Prosecutor, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, to take over and investigate allegations of money laundering against the former Sanitation Minister. The EOCO then wrote to the Attorney General requesting for directions on how to proceed with this. The Attorney General responded and says, "We observed that the OSP did not place a copy of his report on investigation conducted by the outfit on this matter. A study of the document reviewed some of the documents that had been submitted. The OSP indicated that in October 2023, the investigations became transboundary with involvement of the FBI. The office, after stating that it had conducted 7 months extensive investigations into the matter, concluded that the case is largely in the province of suspected money laundering and structuring. It is, however, noted that the OSP did not present a copy of the report on the collaborative investigations with the FBI to EOCO. Neither are the findings of the transboundary investigation conducted by the OSP stated in the OSP's docket to you. We observe that by a letter dated 1st February 2024, you wrote to the OSP to furnish you with a copy of the findings on the case to facilitate your investigations. You inform us that to date, the OSP has not responded to your request. Sections 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act create the offenses relating to money laundering. At the outset, it is important to indicate that the offense of structuring is not known to Ghanaian law. At the heart of the offense of money laundering is gains obtained from criminal proceedings arising from an unlawful activity, which is defined in Section 63 of Act 1044 to refer to offenses specifically spelled out therein. The status of property being proceeds of crime is therefore crucial to money laundering. This is even so under Section 55(2) of Act 1044, which an accused may be presumed to have unlawfully acquired property in her possession which cannot be accounted for. In any event, It is immaterial to note that Section 55(2) of Act 1044 is triggered only in the course of a trial of an accused person for a specified offense under the Act. In the absence of the identification of any criminality associated with the properties retrieved from the suspects, the OSP's referral to EOCO for investigations to be conducted into money laundering is without basis. Aisha, it concludes by saying that even though as part of your mandate you could commence investigations into the source of the money found in the home of the suspects, we do not find this necessary since the office, before the reference by the OSP, had instructed the police service, who already seized with the other suspects, other aspects of the case, to investigate the sources of the huge sums of money found in the home of the suspect, a fact the OSP is aware of. Aisha.
Asante, thank you for bringing us those details from the letter of the Attorney General advising EOCO on the matter. Well, I've been joined by Martin Kwebu, who is a private legal practitioner, for more on this. Grateful for your time, counsel. How does this new development on Cecilia Dapaah's case come across to you? Kindly unmute for me.
Yeah, so Aisha, it's clear that Mamitiwa Dapaah, the executive secretary of EOCO, has been sleeping on the job. The first thing is, did you see the part of the letter saying that the money has been returned to Cecilia Dapaah? That's the most important thing we should deal with right now. How was that money returned to Cecilia Dapaah without EOCO being on site to take it at the same time? Why do I say so? Mr. Cecilia Dapaah had been clear that he was going to return the money and hand over the file to EOCO. That docket, hand it over to EOCO. So how come that at the time the close to $600,000 and over 2.7 million Ghana was being handed over physically, cash was being handed over, EOCO wasn't present on site to collect the money? The rest of the things in the letter we can deal with. I'm sure we'll come to that. But this is the point we should be making. Listen, Mamitiwa Dapaah should be on her way out of that office. She should be out. Let's not play. This is too elementary. It's too elementary for us to tolerate this. Cecilia Dapaah came out publicly that I'm handing over this file. I'm handing over the cash. And so, at all costs, EOCO should have been present to collect that money. There can be no excuses and there can be no buts. And that's why I'm thinking that, we are calling on Mamitiwa to resign. Listen, we had warned her. Listen, I remember that Saturday, I was sitting on news file where we made this point that she should be sure that she's present. Are we saying that EOCO they don't read news? They have no intelligence unit within EOCO? I know Mr. Cecilia Dapaah cannot hand over this money without informing EOCO. Of course, mentioning Mr. Dapaah, though I have my problems with him for letting off Edubuahi and Mahmoud Bawumia over the announced video, right? I have issues with Cecilia Dapaah about it, but I will come to that one. That should not prevent me from being objective in this case. Mr. Dapaah could not have handed over that money without EOCO being properly informed. So I am laying the blame at the doorstep of Mamitiwa Dapaah, the EOCO boss, that she allowed Cecilia Dapaah to take this money. So the only thing that can save her is that she should go for that money. And for the avoidance of that, EOCO also has the same powers in respect of seizure and freezing, just like what the OSP had. So EOCO could have taken that money. That day that the money was being handed over, they didn't need a court order. They can seize and they can freeze before subsequently going to court for confirmation.
Well, the question that many have been wanting to know, or many are asking, is whether a public officer holding such amount of money in her residence does not offend any provision of the Constitution. Do you have an answer to that, especially as she's being freed or she's been cleared of all the other allegations?
Well, there are many provisions at play. Number one, Article 286, Clause 4 of the Constitution makes it clear that if we find any money or property with a public officer, and the public officer cannot account for that money, cannot explain the source of that money as being a loan, inheritance, or income, that money is deemed to have been illegally obtained. And so it goes without saying that we'll seize it. We'll seize it. So there's law. If you are holding money as a public officer, you can't account for that money as being your income, your loan, inheritance, etc., it will be seized. And so it's untenable that the Dapaah can have this money back, even if we don't have a criminal offense. We can seize it based on the Article 286 Clause 4. That's one. Number two, there is a bigger definition of money laundering that we've not paid attention to. When you read the Anti-Money Laundering Act, Act 1040, it says that.
All right, so there seem to be problems with connectivity with Martin Kpebu's line. We'll try and get him back to speak on the matter, but he's been sharing his thoughts on this new development, the advice coming from the Attorney General's office, saying that Cecilia Dapaah the EOCO has no business investigating her for money laundering, and it's giving a long list of reasons why it is giving that advice. We'll get Martin Kpebu to speak more on that. Don't forget that the OSP, before handing the case to EOCO, had cleared her of all charges except the money laundering, which it handed to EOCO. Martin Kpebu says that it will blame EOCO for sleeping on the job, especially by returning the money to Cecilia Dapaah. When we get him, we'll delve deep into the issues. But let's get on to other stories whilst we try to get him solved. Dumso now, that's the call from the Trades Union Congress to the government as the country grapples with erratic power supply, with many businesses coming to a standstill and others struggling to survive. The situation has become dire, with the ECG not yielding to calls for a load shedding timetable. Speaking on May Day, Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yalban, emphasized the urgency of resolving the power crisis.
Mr. President, it is regrettable that the people of Ghana have to experience Dumso again after all what we went through in the past. Please, do something about Dumso now.
Responding to the demands of the TUC, President Akufo-Addo said issues of maintenance and gas supply have now been resolved. According to him, there have been stable electricity supply with no load shedding anywhere in the country. He promised that the situation will remain the same.
Over the period, the issues surrounding maintenance of transformers and gas supply have been successfully resolved, resulting in a sufficient improvement in power supply reliability. Indeed, over the past few days, we have witnessed stable electricity supply across the country, with no load shedding reported anywhere yesterday. For the past 7 years, we have worked tirelessly to keep the lights on, and I am confident that the unfortunate era of Dumso will not return.
Well, the Institute for Energy Security is challenging the president on this. It says the power situation has not been resolved as suggested by the president. I've been joined by the executive director of the Institute of Energy Security, Nana Mwesi VII. I'm grateful for your time. Nana, the president says Dumso is over. You say it's not?
Thanks for having me, Aisha, this morning. Good morning to your viewers. Yes, We know that the power supply has, reliability has improved. However, we still have a deficit of more than 200 megawatts to meet our peak demand. We did check from the ground, and we found a disconnect between the president's remarks and the reality on the ground. And it does appear that the president's statement was made to just reassure the public and to address concerns raised by the leadership of labor union, but it does not accurately reflect the ongoing challenges in the power sector.
So does it, from what you know, does it look like we'll be out of the woods anytime soon?
It is possible. It is possible to the extent that we've seen an improvement in generation, and that the deficit that existed some 4 months, 3 months, a month ago has reduced, and that we are able to produce beyond 3,500 megawatts. And we are still able to produce, to export part of this power to our neighbors, roughly about 110 megawatts, as compared to the 250 we were doing before the problem started. It is possible because we have some fuel supply available now, but then we can't speak for government. How sustainable the supply will be is another thing to be discussed. If government is able to sustain the supply of fuel and improve on the supply, then of course, this should be a thing of the past. However, we have to go back and address the illiquidity in the sector, because we had this gas supply inadequacy because of the illiquidity in the sector. If cash flow is improved, if revenue collection is improved, then we are sure that we'll be able to buy more gas or fuel, and also to maintain the other assets in the sector, right from generation through transmission to distribution.
So currently, what is our situation? Is it a gas supply situation? Is it a financial problem? What exactly are we dealing with now?
Currently, we are still dealing with a financial challenge. It exists. We still have debt of more close to about $1.5 billion in the power sector. And so that must be addressed so that power generators can undertake maintenance and keep on producing power. Fuel suppliers can also supply enough of the fuel, particularly the Nigerian gas can flow unhindered. Then, of course, the transmitter of the gas can also transmit the gas. If we're able to get enough of money, then EOCO, the transmitter, can maintain and upgrade its system. ECG, the major distributor, can also maintain and upgrade its system to meet that level of power supply reliability we are all looking up to. And so it goes beyond generation. All the other facets within the value chain must be resourced so that it's reinforced to withstand any other shock and produce and transmit and distribute more of the power.
Especially with this announcement from the president, what are your expectations in the next few days going forward?
The expectation is that gas flow and liquid fuel flow will be improved, that all the plants available will also come on stream, because we don't have any problem with install capacity here. All that we pray is that gas should flow, and also God must be gracious to us to give us more of the rain to support the hydro that I mentioned, EOKO and Akosombo, to produce more of that. If government is able, like I said earlier, to raise more revenue at the tail end of the value chain through the ECG and fairly distribute to all the utilities their own contribution to power generation, then of course they can maintain their system and assets and produce more of that. But it does lie with government to ensure that all these things are done well. We cannot speak for government. Government must reassure us that it's going to work hard to ensure that there's liquidity in the sector to address the challenges left.
Grateful for your time. Nana Amoise VII, he's Executive Director of the Energy Institute of Energy Security. Let's now get on to other stories. President Akufo-Addo has assured organized labor that the executive will work closely with the legislature to pass a new labor law this year before his tenure ends. The president is hopeful the law will help address labor disputes and set fair and appropriate wages for workers. President Akufo-Addo was addressing workers at this year's May Day celebration.
The upward adjustment of the base pay by 23% in the first half of the year and by 25% in the second half of the year is a demonstration of government's commitment to improving and protecting public sector incomes. This is being done to signal the importance government places on the welfare of workers. Chairperson, Secretary General, though today marks my final day, my final May Day address to organize labor as President of the Republic, having served by January the 7th, 2025, the constitutionally permitted allotment of 2 terms of 4 years each. I want to assure you that this, however, will not be my last encounter with organized labor.
General of the Trade Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Alban, bemoaned the low wages paid workers, particularly workers in the private sector. This, he says, translates into small pension benefits when workers go on retirement.
Comrades, we are celebrating this May Day at the time Ghanaian workers and their families are grappling with high cost of living and inflation of over 25%. Exchange rate of the cedi is now almost 14 cedis, if not more, to $1, compared to about 4 in 2016. That means workers who earned monthly salary of 1,000 Ghana cedis in 2016 were taking home the equivalent of $250. Today, 1,000 Ghana cedis is only $71 US. The depreciation of the cedi at this monumental scale, that is about 250% depreciation, represents a huge decline in living standards of Ghanaians generally and workers in particular. This is so because of our over-reliance on imported goods such as medicines, refined petroleum products, and food, whose prices are directly affected by the exchange rate of the Ghana cedi in terms of the major international currencies such as the US dollar and the pound sterling. What it means is that if we want our cities to be stable, we should reduce imports and consume what we produce in Ghana. Furthermore, as we all know very well, Ghanaian workers rely on loans to meet very basic necessities such as rent advance and our children's education. And in some cases, we even have to rely on loans for food. Today, we are paying interest rates of 30% to access loans from the banks. In the informal economy, interest rates can even be as high as 50% or even sometimes higher. Our children graduate from the universities and colleges after we have spent so much on them, but they cannot find jobs. And the trouble is that there seems to be no end of this socioeconomic hardship in sight. We were told that an IMF bailout will help, but we know that IMF bailout cannot be a solution to Ghana's economic hardship. the relatively high wage increases we negotiated for workers in the last 2 years have lost their real values. So, comrades, we have a lot of work to do to protect the working people of Ghana. Brother Chairman, let me shift our attention to the theme of this year's May Day celebration, and that is Election 2024, the role of workers and social partners in securing peaceful elections for national development. As in the previous election years,
in the Upper West region, Regional Minister Cecilia Dapaah admonished labor unions in the country to use dialogue to resolve their grievances rather than resorting to violence and strikes. Upper West Regional Chairman of the Trade Union Congress, Ibrahim Wema, in an earlier speech said they would be embarking on a series of industrial strikes should the government fail to address their concerns by the end of next week. Stephen Yakubu, upon taking to the platform, assured that the governing body was looking into their concerns and they would be duly addressed.
Leadership and members of the various labor unions in the Upper West region first converged at the Watertown basketball volleyball courts before spilling all principal streets in the heart of the municipality to mark May Day, otherwise known as Workers' Day. They walked and danced to music from loud sound system kept on a heavy truck. They later converged at the Nasiri Bomb II Park, where they were addressed by their leadership. They fired government for failing to address their concerns, which has resulted in the poor working conditions they are currently wallowing in. First to draw first blood was the Upper West Regional Chairman of the Trade Union Congress, Ibrahim Wema.
Honorable Regional Minister, organized labor have one message for you today. Guess one. Resolve all our challenges in the labor front immediately. That is the message. If you fail, by 6th of May this year, 2024, if organized labor doesn't receive any message from you, we will advise ourselves. And if you don't stop us, and our brothers in the education sector take the lead, by 7th May, if they strike, organized labor will join. And if we are joining the strike, our message will be two messages. One, against the National Labour Commission. Two, against our employer. We are striking against National Labour Commission because they have failed to act. So our strike is based on them. We will not take any solution other than solving the challenge. Against the employer because the employer has failed to follow the roadmap to solve our challenges. We are not going to call off the strike for negotiations. We will be on strike until our challenges are resolved.
Next was the Upper West Regional Secretary of the Trade Union Congress, Garba Godwin.
Let us turn our attention to working conditions in Ghana. In spite of the existence of relatively strong institutions, legal framework for industrial relations, many Ghanaian workers still suffer wrongful termination and dismissal. Some are not allowed to exercise their constitutional right, form, or join a union of their choice to protect their socio-economic interests. Many workers suffer injuries and death at their workplace, and many more are denied justice in dispute with their employers.
Upper West Regional Minister Stephen Yakubu admonished labor unions in the country to use dialogue to resolve their grievances rather than violence and strikes.
Leadership of organized labor should focus more on dialogue and negotiation rather than adopt strike or other violent means. The chairman wanted me to solve the problems today. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, please don't use violent means. Workers' agitations have centered on securing a living wage and better conditions of service. And I would like to assure you that this government, my government, your government, and others' government remains very much committed to achieving this goal.
One mayor, Isakutair Mumin, acknowledged contributions of the labor unions in the country's development and urged them to stand united for a better future for the country.
As labor unions, let us stand united in our pursuit for a better future for all. Together, we can make a lasting impact and build a nation that thrives on the strength and unity of its people.
Reporting for J News, Rafik Salam.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, tuberculosis was one of the deadliest infectious diseases. It is estimated tuberculosis has caused more deaths throughout human history than any other infectious agent. Despite advancement in treatment and prevention, it remains a significant global health concern, particularly in regions with limited access to healthcare and resources. The National TB program says more children are at risk now, and parents must be vigilant to help in early detection of the infection. There's more in this report.
Children, rural poor, persons living with HIV, minors, and smokers are the key vulnerable population who easily contract tuberculosis due to factors like the quality of air in the environment where they find themselves. This is according to the findings of a research into tuberculosis by the National Tuberculosis Program. Senior lecturer and consultant at the School of Public Health, KNUST, Dr. Muhammad Aliyu, says tuberculosis is still a killer disease.
Generally, we know that TB is a public health problem and remains a significant disease in a country. So we need certain interventions. We need to strengthen or improve our intervention to meet the needs of the TB population. A normal person being infected and not having a strong immune system would end up getting the disease. So there's the need for us to raise awareness, not only in the key vulnerable population, but also the general population need to understand why there's a need for us to raise awareness.
According to Dr. Aliu, the research was bedeviled by major challenges, thereby limiting the extent the study could explore.
There's the legal implications and also the financial component. The legal implication is that, look, you can't expose, is ethically not right in research for you to expose the locations of individuals who, from the onset, the activities are deemed illegal. So you can't expose them. Secondly, we don't have enough funds to conduct this assessment. It's very important. NTP would better respond to TB. They can control TB better if we actually know exactly where these individuals who are at risk of vulnerable for getting TB. We need to understand their locations, but however, we don't really have enough funds.
Project lead Emanuela Bentum called on all stakeholders to join the fight against TB as it is claiming lives.
TB is very risky, and it was the #1 deadliest disease before COVID, but it's still hanging around. COVID has been dealt with, but what are we doing about TB? TB still hangs around us. That is why we make sure to map TB key and vulnerable populations in Ghana in order to reduce TB inequities. So we are not only bringing them on board, engaging and sensitizing key and vulnerable populations. We are also taking services to them, especially those who are not having access to TB services and care. So We are on the agenda, leaving no one behind, and we are carrying everyone along. In as much as we are sensitizing these key populations, we are making sure to engage lawmakers and policymakers that will make policy decisions and to suit TB key populations in order to meet their needs. So let's all call on our lawmakers and policymakers to do this for us in order to make sure our accountability is promoted.
The National TB Program has assured Ghanaians that it is working tirelessly to curb the rising cases of tuberculosis and urging affected persons to adhere to their prescriptions.
The Methodist Church of Ghana has called for an urgent review of the free SHS policy to ensure better food and infrastructure for beneficiaries across the country. According to the presiding bishop of the church, even though the relevance of the policy is not in doubt, a few adjustments must be made to enhance the quality of the nationwide program effective. Speaking on an Accra-based Wesleyan TV, the Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena-Boafo noted the concerns with poor infrastructure and widespread reports of poor feeding require urgent attention from government.
Remember at our last 2 years conference, the president was there, and as part of my address, I asked if we could review the system. We are all in for it. The free SHS has come to help a number of people.
Expansion of access, for example.
Yes, and even the numbers coming in. And for that one, nobody can fault it. It's a good thing. And people are taking advantage of it. But the structures, the system itself needs some review so that we can fine-tune it by looking at the infrastructure, looking at the quality of the meals and what is being sent in there.
Very important.
Those ones, you see, because going through the system, you need quality food, you need quality ambience and all that.
Still on education, there's a strong push for government to invest substantially into public education, especially at the basic education level, to bring it up to par with private schools. This is the call by veteran educationist Israel Titiofe, who is retiring after decades of steering private education in Ghana. The principal of the Accra campuses of the international school, Israel Titiofe, is celebrated in the circles of private education, having managed a number of top-level private schools in the country. A retirement service was held in his honor.
Stakeholders have expressed concerns about the dwindling quality of education in public basic schools, with calls for government to do more to bring it up to the level of private education. International Community School here in Accra and in Kumasi is one of the thriving private schools in the country, where Israel Titiofe has been serving as principal for the last 3 years. Mr. Titiofe is a legend in the private education industry, with decades under his belt, and is now proceeding on retirement. Israel Titiofe wants a policy shift and more funding to revolutionize public education at the basic level.
I think that we need a policy. First, I think we need a funding. Free education in universities should stop. They should put it in secondary education. And develop secondary education so that every child can go to school, can go to a proper school and finish. So they have the resources, they have the teachers, the same kind of teachers. It will take time, but we should put our minds to it, and then we can do that.
Co-founder of ICS Ghana, Dr. Charles Yaboah, reflects on the impact of his outgoing principal.
Well, Mr. Ofer is a man that believes in education for all. And the reason why we wanted him to come and work with us is because he is somebody that really embodies strong values, good values. And so, having served on the school board for so many years, we wanted him, to come and work for the school as the first principal in ICS Accra. He is a man that believes in good outcome for all students if we give them the chance. So that is what he is, and that is what we've had, for the past 3 years with him.
The Vice Principal, Kwejo Kunedu Yeboah, extolled the virtues of Israel Titi Ofer.
He's somebody that you go to whenever you are in a crisis, and he understands the international school landscape. He is committed to student advocacy, ensuring that there is student achievement at the heart of everything that we do. And I think for us as an institution, he is somebody that will say, even though he's leaving the school, he's going on retirement, we'll still tap into him because he has a wealth of knowledge that we cannot allow to go to waste. He's such a great man.
For many students, Israel Titi Ofer has had an immense impact on their upbringing as they share their fondest memory of their principal.
I'm going to miss his time during assembly when he talks to us and encourages us. Yeah, he represents a lot. It was a lot to see him. Very friendly person. You could go to him for anything. It's very nice. I'll miss the times where you are just walking in the corridor and you see him and you make a conversation with you. It's very, very heartening. It's very nice.
Many came bearing gifts with speeches that personified the incredible life of Israel Titi Ofer, who has spent a great part of his life impacting others. From Achimota School to SOS and wrapping it all up at ICS, Israel Titi Ofer shaped the life of many and has left indelible footprints on private education in Ghana.
Looted royal artifacts from the Asante Kingdom are finally on display for public viewing at the Menchia Museum in Kumasi, 150 years after the British took them. The 32 items, including a ceremonial cap decorated with gold ornaments, were received by the Asante Hene during the reopening of the museum. Emmanuel Bright-Kwaku was at the Menchia Palace, where the Asante Hene described the return of the items as a restoration of the Asante spirit.
Looted by the British Army some 150 years ago, the royal artifacts now sit within the confines of the Menchia Museum, including a ceremonial cap decorated with gold ornaments known as Impomposu, a sword of state, 3 cast gold soul washers badges, and a gold peace pipe. These artifacts were taken from the kingdom during the Anglo-Asante Wars, including the infamous Sagwenti War of 1874. A gold loot harp presented by Asante Hene Osei-Bonso to British diplomat Thomas Edward Bowditch during an 1817 trade treaty was also returned. 15 of these artifacts were returned by the British Museum and 17 from the Victoria and Albert Museum.
They believed in us.
Speaking at the homecoming of these looted artifacts, Otumfuo Osei II indicated that the return of these items is a restoration of the Asante spirit.
The spirit is back here, and then everybody should please visit. The Pomponcio sword is there. The Nchemcha is there, everything up there are all being displayed for you to see that, yes, as we said when they ransacked it, yes, it was true, yes, they are still keeping our artifacts, but we also are happy that they've agreed to return some of these to us for display for our people to see. Sure. Thank you. Let us accept that today is a day for Ashanti, it's a day for the Black African continent, that the spirit that we bore and share is back with us again.
The Menchia Museum, opened by Otumfuo Pokuware II, was originally the first palace built by the British for Asante Hene Nana Prempeh II in 1925. It is to replace the royal palace they destroyed during the Yasantua War in 1900. Closed 3 weeks ago, the public can now see photographic and regalia displays, lifelike mannequins of the 20th and 21st century Queen Mothers and Kings of Asante, and the chronicles of the Asante Kingdom, including their history with the British. Dr. Tristram Hunt is the director of the Victoria and Albert Museum in the UK.
We acknowledge the very painful history surrounding the acquisition of these objects, a history tainted by the scars of imperial conflict and colonialism. We also recognise the enduring cultural, historical and spiritual significance these artefacts hold for the Asante people. These treasures have borne witness to the triumphs and trials of a great kingdom, and their return to Kumasi is a testament to the power of cultural exchange and reconciliation.
African countries, including Ghana, have repeatedly called for the return of looted items, with some regaining ownership over precious historical artifacts in recent years. Chief Negotiator Ivor Ajimandia revealed negotiations are still ongoing for the return of some 100 looted artifacts in various museums across the globe.
We're still live on Joy News Desk here on Joy News in the Joy News studios at Kokomlemle. We'll take a break. We'll be bringing you more in business.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to the business segment on Joy News Desk with me, Pius Kojobaka. The LMI Holdings, leading developers in Ghana's development space and also developers of the tema-free zones, have been certified with an International Finance Corporation Green Buildings EDGE certification. According to the senior country manager of the International Finance Corporation, Kyle Khalifa, his outfit is committed to supporting the private sector. He spoke to Joy Business.
According to the senior country manager for the IFC, Kyle Khalifa, the LMI Holdings deserves the certificate issued as it has been a visionary leader in innovation in Ghana.
An optional program, but many of our clients choose to achieve it to meet this international standard energy and sustainable resource efficiency standard. It's one of the largest standards globally, and in fact, over 93% of the buildings in Ghana that are green certified are actually EDGE certified, and it's a win-win for everybody. And in addition to first and foremost just doing the right thing, making the planet more livable, and making the environment in which these businesses operate in Ghana more sustainable for communities and stakeholders, employees. In addition, it's cost savings in terms of water supply, in terms of energy supply, in terms of air conditioning and fuel supply. But you layer on top, and that's why the LMI warehouse is a bit unique in that the whole desire for greening of supply chains around the world is a growing trend. And so this having a green manufacturing warehouse facility in Ghana makes supply chains in Ghana more green, more sustainable, and actually greater market access around the world for products manufactured in Ghana.
The Chief Executive Officer for LMI Holdings, Kojobo Otueduhine, adds the certification is good, and even though there's a financial aspect of it, the company wants to take environmental issues serious.
The EDGE certification establishes our environmental credentials. It's at the forefront of whatever we do. And this is a certification for that. Going forward, LMI has decided that the environment, the social aspect, the governance aspect is going to take a prominent place, is going to be critical to our operations, and this is an establishment of that. No, in fact, this is the start of it, I should say. This is just the beginning of it. Our next major development is the Dawa Industrial Zone. And once again, like I said before, the environment, the social aspect is going to be at the forefront of it. It's going to be in everything. It's going to be in our DNA, if I can say that.
The Ghana Revenue Authority is pressing on its clients to pay taxes online to seek redress to any technical issue with tax officers at its various offices in the country. The call follows a move by the authority to increase its online payment as a way of reducing queues at its offices. Speaking to journalists at the tax clinic here in Accra, manager for Kimbu Public Sector Tax Office, Charles, Asante Mensah, disclosed that online taxpayers are free to walk into any GRA office to have their concerns addressed. Here's a report.
The tax clinic by the Ghana Revenue Authority was organized to serve as a platform for tax education and also support taxpayers in filing their returns for the year. As part of moves to increase online payments, the GRA has made efforts to provide taxpayers with the necessary shortcodes and online platforms to file their taxes. Speaking to journalists at the tax clinic, manager for Kimbu Public Sector Tax Office, Charles Asante Mensah, encouraged online taxpayers to use the channels to avoid any stress in tax payment. He, however, argued that taxpayers should seek redress in any tax payment concerns online.
In the past, when this online filing had not started, you had our taxpayers queuing at our offices at the end of every month of tax filing period. So management thought it wise that it will be very necessary that we get our taxpayers to file online. So in order to avoid situations where you have our taxpayers queuing in our offices in their numbers to file their returns. So this one, you can just sit in the comfort of your home or your office and then do the filing and then doing the payment. So it's one way. So filing online doesn't mean that if you have any challenges, you cannot walk to the offices of the GRA to have your tax issues resolved. So our doors are always open for taxpayers to walk in when they are having any issue regarding their filing and payment of their taxes.
Some of the participants at the tax clinic lauded the GRA for the initiative and urged others to take advantage to file their taxes.
So far, my impression has been very good. The impression so far has been exciting. We've been taking through the new process in respect of how taxpayers who want to come to the GRA office to come and pay their tax, how to go through the tax process and how to file their tax returns. So far it's been a very good program, very productive.
I think it's very good because it will help us just sit at your comfort zone and go online to file up your tax returns instead of coming here to waste all the time and be in queue. It's very, very good and it's very beneficial. So I think it's a good idea.
The tax clinic is part of an event to improve tax education in the country.
That's it for business on News Desk.
And that's how we wrap up during News Desk this morning. Log on to myjournalline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. I'll see you again at 12.